Bryan Beck from TradeStreetPost.com covers the Charlotte Bobcats but has his finger on the pulse of the NBA. Join me on the Sports Buffet podcast. We recorded this interview on Thursday evening. Bryan gives his thoughts on the playoffs, what he sees happening in the future, and what's happened to this point. Bryan Beck on the Sports Buffet podcast. Talking real quick about the playoffs now. We mentioned it earlier, at least I did, of being surprised Indiana's where they are. Probably doubly shocked that they're up now 2-1 on the Heat. Realistically, though, can Indiana win this series?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they won it at all now. I think the Chris Bosh injury is a big deal for Miami. He, in my opinion, is a very underrated player. I think he caught a lot of heat, after the decision, and he decided to go with LeBron because they tried to build it as a three-superstar thing, and he caught a lot of heat for not being in the same class as LeBron and Wade are, but he's critical to that team. He's the only inside presence they have at all. Offensively and defensively, to be honest, they're going to have to just run Wade and LeBron into the ground in this series. I think they got a lot of problems. Miami still has issues closing out games late. They seem to not really know where to go. I don't want to get into too much of the LeBron choking stuff, but they just seem to not have an identity late in games. And Indiana's a tough team. They don't have any superstars, and sometimes that's the problem that they have. They don't really have a go-to guy late in the game, but they're a very balanced team across the board. They play very unselfishly. The guys, they get shots. Whoever's open gets the shot. And I think that they're probably in the driver's seat in this series. Game 4 is going to be very interesting. It's one of those games you're going to kind of see what Miami's made of. I'm very interested to see how they respond to that because they got beat down pretty good in Game 3. And with Bosh out, they just don't have an answer for Hibbert or West inside. Yeah,
I would totally agree with you. I think Bosh did catch a lot of heat. Now, no pun intended, but they really. I said you can't name anybody on Indiana except maybe after you get past Granger and Hibbert and/or West. Name me somebody in Miami's front court not named Chris Bosh. It's almost impossible for the layman to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other one most people know of would be Haslam, I guess, but he's a role player. He's going to have to step up in the series, and he was a no-show tonight. So you're right that there's no one in that front court, and that's part of the issue with all the superstars teaming up.
Right.
There's a soft cap in the NBA, but there's still a cap, and when you have to pay three people basically max deals, you're stuck plugging the holes with guys that just aren't as good. I mean, obviously their top three players are better than any other team's top three players, but when you look at a team like Indiana, they are clearly better, numbers 4 through 10 than Miami is. And that's been very obvious in this series, and it was tonight because, during the, I think in the second quarter and late third, early fourth, the Indiana bench just took it to Miami. It's pretty evident. The only way Miami wins this series is if LeBron and Wade just go crazy. And they're going to have a lot of pressure, and they're going to be playing, 44, 45 minutes apiece. So I think they got their hands full.
Boston and Philly, how do you see that one shaking down as the series is 2-1 in the favor of the Celtics right now?
I have a hard time thinking Philly's going to make too big of a series out of this. I really thought going into the playoffs that they were probably the worst team of the 16. And honestly, I think without Derrick Rose going down, I think they get swept away in 4 easily by Chicago. Doug Collins has done a great job with that team. I mean, he gets everything he can out of them. There's just not a load of talent there. Boston's kind of hitting their stride, too. They've been a little banged up, and Pearson Allen especially have been. But, Garnett has been unbelievable in that series. And in the whole playoffs, he's playing like, the Garnett of 5 years ago.
Right.
Rondo's been great. Against Philly in this series, he's actually been hitting the jumper, which, the book on him is let him shoot. But He's been shooting the ball well. This game, I'd be surprised if that goes 5, maybe 6 games now. I know Philly stole one in Boston, but I have a hard time thinking that Philly can win that series.
Let's take your pick then out of the East. Who do you have coming out of there?
Well, that's a tough call. Without the Boston injury, I think Miami would climb through. I kind of give Boston the lead right now. I think they're probably going to dispose of Philly pretty quick and get some time to rest. I wouldn't be shocked if the Miami-Indiana series didn't go 7 games, probably at least 6. I think Boston matches up very well with both of those teams, especially if they were to play Miami and Bosch were still out. And Bosch's injury is one of those that you don't come back from real quick either. So I think I'll leave Boston right now.
And now let's look at the West real quick. I think the Lakers, aside from being down 2-0 against the Thunder, are in big trouble. I don't know if a part of that comes from Meta World Peace's elbow to Harden in terms of the Thunder are just really not happy with the Lakers, or if it's just the Thunder have young legs and the Lakers' legs are, to me, really on the last legs per se. How do you see it?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Lakers kind of giving that game away last night. You probably put the nail in the wrong coffin. I just can't see them coming back 2-0. Like you mentioned, the Lakers, they're an old team with tired legs, and they got a tough 7-game series out of Denver. They had to hop right into this, so Oklahoma City got plenty of time to rest. Now they go back to L.A. They're going to play back-to-back this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I just can't see the Lakers beating the Thunder twice in 2 days. I think they'll probably split it, but I think Oklahoma City probably closes that out in 5. The Lakers to me appear. I'm not sure what they're going to do. The Bonham Gasol thing is interesting. They seem to show up about half the time. And the biggest thing, the issue I think we have offensively, they don't have an identity offensively. And I kind of blame that on Mike Brown. I'm not the biggest Mike Brown fan, but I think wherever he's been, there seems to be, a lot of confusion in offense. They don't really know where to go a lot of times. But the Lakers have 3 really talented players, but they just seem to be out of sync more often than not. And Oklahoma City just can challenge them in a lot of places. They have 3 guys who can create their own shot in Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. They can get whatever they want against the Lakers. And I think the Lakers' only shot, and they did that pretty well in Game 2, is to just kind of muck this series up. Make the games ugly, slow them down, try to beat them up, because they do have an advantage inside. But I just have a hard time. I feel like they made that game as ugly as they can make it, and they caught Oklahoma City on a really off night, and they still couldn't seal it.
Let me touch on a few more things with you, if you're all right on time. But the Lakers, I think their problems, and you kind of touched on it, they extend beyond this season because every year they're getting a year older. Kobe is not old in terms of years, but in terms of basketball years, he's really getting, I think, ancient and needs a lot more help than he's got right now. Is there anything the Lakers can do to still be relevant while Kobe is there, or has Kobe seen all his rings that he's going to see?
I think they have to get a point guard. They lost out when David Stern overturned the Chris Paul deal. I think that burned them pretty good. But like you said, they have to be able to take some pressure off Kobe. I'm trying to remember how old he is. I think he's in around the 34 range. I'm not sure if I'm accurate there. But, the amount of games he's played, he came in the league when he was 18. He's been deep in the playoffs almost every year. He's probably got the legs of a guy in his upper 30s easy. They put too much pressure on him still, and I think the easiest thing to do is if they could get an elite point guard in there, and I'm not sure how they're going to do it because their cap situation is terrible. They're deep in the luxury tax. I'm not sure how they would do it. They would have to flip the solid Bynum for a point guard, I think. That's what I would try to do if I were the Lakers. If you could get somebody for Gasol or even Bynum to kind of even that out. they have way too much pressure on Kobe to score on the perimeter. The rest of their guards are terrible. You know, they got Sessions at the deadline. He's okay. He's an upgrade over Blake, but in no world peace is way past his prime, too. They got to get somebody to help him score and get somebody to take the pressure off him offensively.
And you're talking a tier 1 point guard, because I heard the word elite come out of your mouth, correct?
Yeah, I think they need a tier 1 point guard. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not sure who that would be, but you know, we're talking someone in the class of, you know, Darren Williams, Paul, Rondo. You know, they need a big time point guard.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And you know, I mean, even though I think the NBA is rich in terms of point guards right now, I think they're rich in terms of very good. But you know, elite point guards, they don't grow on trees, so it might be tough for the Lakers. The thing that would bother me if I was a Lakers fan is just Andrew Bynum's inconsistency, and his brain doesn't seem to always be turning clockwise. It sometimes seems like it goes counterclockwise, and I even turned back to that Dallas series last year, which is just a stupid thing to do against, I believe it was J.J. Barea.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Bynum definitely, the thing that I see him, he has maturity issues. I think he just needs to grow up a little bit. He doesn't handle pressure situations well. Some of the things he's even been doing lately and saying in the post game stuff just, you know, doesn't seem like it was professional to me. Yeah, and you can kind of tell too in these games that I think it's where he wears on Kobe.
Right. Yeah, I do too.
You know, I think, you know, Kobe kind of expects a little more out of him. And everyone knows how talented Bynum is. He's one of the top, you know, 2 or 3 centers in the league, hands down. But I don't know how much he loves the game. I don't know how serious he takes it. Sometimes you can really question, you know, how good he wants to be.
Before we close up with San Antonio and the Clippers real quick, Magic Johnson made a comment of he thought if the Lakers didn't beat Denver, Mike Brown was out of a job. And, you know, Magic took a little bit of heat for that in terms of, I think a lot of people thought he, you know, kind of has an insider perspective with the Lakers. But I'll tell you what, fair or unfair, I totally agree with him. I think if the Lakers had lost Game 7, I'm not saying it would have happened the next day, but I think Mike Brown would have probably been seeking employment too. Agree?
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if he still wasn't seeking employment sometime this summer. I mentioned it before, I'm not a big Mike Brown fan.
Right.
He's, you know, and I don't know that really, honestly, Kobe respects him all that much. You get in a situation where some of these players, you know, and I think Kobe, in somewhat has kind of earned the right. You know, he feels he's probably smarter than Brown is, and he might be right.
Right.
I agree. I think he definitely would have been fired. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not fired anyway. That seemed like an odd hire to me when it happened. I remember kind of chuckling when I read it. I don't think he's for the long term there.
Do you bring in a triangle guy, or do you just bring in somebody that knows the Lakers, or do you just say, Kobe, you got 3-4 years left, who you like?
That's a good question. I don't know that I would look for a triangle guy necessarily, but I think opposite of the Bobcats, who may be best served to get a guy who's going to come up and, you know, prove himself. I think the Lakers have to get somebody that's proven. You know, if Orlando lets go of Van Gundy, I don't think that would be a bad hire for them. You know, he's done a good job with Howard there. He's a lot better offensive-minded coach. I think they could. He does a good job of Orlando spreading the floor. You know, being able to take some pressure off some of the inside guys. But I think they have to go with a proven guy because, you know, when you have a player, you know, like Kobe, who's one of the elite players in the league, you have to hire a coach that he really respects. I don't think you can hire someone who's, you know, going to have to prove himself.
What about Kurt Rambis? I know he's got Laker ties, and he even coached the Lakers. I can't remember if it was on a full-time basis or an interim basis for a while, but, you know, what about Kurt Rambis?
That's a possibility. I'm not familiar with Ramos as far as kind of what kind of offensive defensive sets he runs.
Right.
That's a possibility. That wouldn't surprise me that much.
But you would be surprised if Mike Brown comes back, is what I'm kind of gathering.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I know the Lakers have kind of come out and praised their. They've been saying that they've got his back, and none of that's true. But
the dreaded vote of confidence.
I think that's a fault. You have to say that now when your team's still playing, but I don't know how much they really mean it.
Right. All right. Let's end with the Spurs and the Clippers. I think Greg Popovich coached his team perfectly in terms of, it was a short season, but it was a lot of back-to-backs. But, I think he rested guys at the right time. And, I'll be honest with you, I thought the Spurs have some very old legs too. And I think in any series they could have been in trouble, but they disposed of Utah. They are up 1-0 on the Clippers, and the Clippers have much younger legs. How do you see this series playing out?
I think of all the four semifinal series left, this was the one where I did not think the underdog had a chance at all, and I still don't. I think the longest this will go is 5 games. It wouldn't shock me if it didn't go past 4. San Antonio is really good. And I think what you said about Popovich was dead on. He got through this season without playing any of his guys in big minutes, which was key because, like you said, they got a lot of older guys. Especially look at Duncan and Ginobili, and even the Bobcats reunion with Steven Jackson and Dion there. They're not young either.
Right.
And Parker's going to turn 30, so he did a great job of getting those guys a lot of rest through the season, still locking up the 1 seed, and they're a very deep team too. I mean, they bring very experienced guys off the bench. And then even some of the other guys like Danny Green have been contributing really well too. They're playing better than anybody else in the league right now. I think one of the big differences between this year and last year is that Tim Duncan is healthy. I know they got upset about Memphis last year in the first round. Duncan basically hobbled through that series, but they rested him some through the season. He's healthy. The whole team's healthy. They play as unselfish as anybody, and I think that's a Popovich. That's the way he coaches. When you watch them play, to me, they seem to get a good shot every possession.
Right.
And the Clippers, I just don't see how the Clippers hang with them in this series. If they were to make this close at all, Chris Paul has to go nuts every night. There's just no one else that they have that can help them. Their inside duo with Blake and Jordan, they do well running and dunking and getting on Sports Center, but they just don't have it. They can't score on the post, neither one of them. They can't challenge. San Antonio inside. So like I said, other than Chris Paul just basically putting everybody on his back, I have a hard time thinking that's a very competitive series.
So when do the Spurs kind of fall off, or as long as they have Popovich and he keeps kind of mixing and matching and, not letting old legs get older, I mean, when do they fall off? I mean, because it seems like they don't really have a plan in place of who can succeed Duncan or, who can succeed Ginobili to the degree that would be needed to keep them as an elite team, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I wouldn't be shocked if San Antonio wasn't just trying to make I kind of look at them as maybe Boston from a couple of years ago.
Right.
They're trying to see if they can get 2 to 3 more years of run at it, and then they might just be willing to start over. I don't really know that they have much of a plan because, like I said, most of the guys, they are a deep team. They have a good bench, but most of those are, veteran guys that are on short-term deals that are coming there to try to win a championship. They're not, and that's part of the thing when you're so good for as long as they've been. You're not getting good draft picks. You're not really stocking with a lot of young players. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't try to ride out Duncan. I know his contract's up this year. I'm guessing he'll sign for another year or two. Probably ride Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, that crew through for a couple more years, and then say, it's been a great 15-year run and push the reset button. It would be my guess of how they're going to handle it.
Yeah, I don't see Duncan ever wearing another jersey other than a San Antonio jersey. But San Antonio and Oklahoma City, I take it as your Western Conference final pick. Who plays Boston?
I give a slight lean to San Antonio. They're just playing so well. You get, I think that series would go 6-7 games. I think it'd be a slugfest, but I'm leaning to San Antonio. Wouldn't shock me if Oklahoma City won. It's one of those things that kind of reminds me when Jordan was younger. How long does it take them to kind of get over the hump?
Right.
And one thing I have been impressed with Oklahoma City is, they slipped Dallas in the first round, but those games were tough games. 3 of the 4 were basically down to the last possession, as with the game against the Lakers last night. And for a young team that doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience, they close games really well. So I think it could very well be the best series throughout the playoffs, maybe even better than the finals, but I would lean San Antonio.
Well, Bryan, definitely fun catching up with you. We will continue to check out your writings, and we'll read at the blog at tradestreetpost.com, and we look forward to doing this again much more in the future.
I appreciate it, Bob.